This is the wood stove that I built. I built it several years ago. I built it to go on my first big ocean going boat, and I did not get it completely installed in the other boat. And but now I'm in my newer boat, and so I do have it installed now. It's sitting on top of my engine box, and I did the tile work there. So I really like the tile pattern. The reason I chose that color, the white and the black with the black diamonds, is I'm going to put LED lights around it, and I've tried it. I experimented with it, and so what I like about white is when you change the color of the lights, the white tile will change that color, the same color of the lights. So if it's red light, the tiles turn red. If it's blue light, they turn blue. Actually, I'm thinking about maybe getting black light LEDs, which would really be cool. And but at any rate, that's what I'm going to do there. And so at any rate, I built this wood stove. The main cylinder there, the main big pipe part of it, was a high pressure steam pipe. So it's a 3/4 inch thick walled pipe. Really heavy, and then so that's the main part, and then the bottom part that flares out, that's actually a Chinese wok for cooking Chinese food. I turned it upside down, cut the bottom of it out, and the wok was given to me by my sister's husband when they got married. They had a lot of utensils, and he wanted to get rid of it, so he gave it to me, and that's what I did with it. And then the bottom part, where you can see that little fin sticking out there at the bottom, that is a disc blade from the research farm where I work. So when you disc a field, you may have seen tractors disking a field where they pull this implement that has all these discs, round discs, and they flip the soil over as they tear down, and they cut down into the soil and flip the soil over. And so I made that out of one of the discs. We replaced a bunch of discs off of one of the implements, and so we had a bunch of spare ones, and so I used that, and I cut it out with a cutting torch. The vent there, that chrome part, that was a vent that I got at West Marine at the store. I found it in the catalog, and I needed something for the door and a vent so I can control the airflow going in. And I'm just burning some stuff in here just to kind of show it working. Any rate, that's just paper stuff that I burnt. Sometimes I put a few pieces of junk mail in there and get rid of it, just got my name all over it. But so the door here I made, and this little knob, I needed a wooden knob. I need to glue it on there. It's not on tight. But this knob, I just happened to go into a hobby store, and at the counter I looked down, they had a box full of these knobs, and they were just perfect. Because I wanted a wooden knob so you know, when it gets hot you don't burn your hand. And I just happened to luck out and find a box full of these knobs, so I bought one, and it works perfect. And then the white handles here. So this bottom part, the fire's in here. This is sealed off the bottom and the top, and so the fire's just in that part. So the bottom part, as I made that for, it's kind of like a broiler, and it opens up. Both these doors open up, and there's room down in there, so I could put a plate of food in there and heat it up, or you know, I don't know if I've never tried broiling anything in here, but I don't know if it'd get hot enough to really do a good job at broiling. But I have warmed some food up under there before, and it worked pretty good. And then the feet on the bottom, that was interesting. So those are bolts that come down through the disc plate there, part of the disc, so I had these long bolts, and I had to bend them. So I could make room for it if I wanted to put a plate in the broiler. There's a room down there. I left the bolts going down through the disc, and I put big washers on them, and then I think I have a nut on there originally. So it was just like threaded bolts sticking out of the bottom, and I needed some kind of feet, and I was thinking, well, brass balls. So I went online. I thought, how am I gonna, what am I gonna do? Google brass balls? God knows what's gonna come up with that. And but sure enough, I found them, I think, on eBay, and they were threaded, 13 threads to the inch, the right diameter, and they screw on and they fit perfect. They're solid brass. And then that chrome piece in the middle on the bottom, that's I had to through bolt this down, so it's bolted all the way through that pedestal and into the engine box. There's a big diameter bolt to hold all this down, because this wood stove is really heavy. And so that chrome part down there is actually a shower fixture where your shower nozzle comes out of the wall, and it happened to be just the perfect size. It worked perfect, so I really lucked out when I built this thing. And then the flue up here, I got standard flue pipe that's insulated, stainless steel on the inside, and it was galvanized on the outside, and I sandblasted it on the outside and painted it. So I sandblasted all of this, the whole thing, and then painted it black. And then I also made this vent, so it has a damper here, and this is the vent. I used tree wire, so this is the damper. Oops, see, smoke comes out because I'm cutting off. So I can shut the stove down. This adjusts here, and that closes, and so I can shut it down or control the airflow. And but this is tree wire, and this was out at the farm. Our neighbors grew peaches, and so they used to use wire to wire up the peach tree branches so they don't break when they're loaded down with peaches when they're getting ripe. They went back to using wooden stakes to do that instead of wire, because wire is dangerous. Pieces of wire will end up on the ground, and then they'll go through with a brush hog, which is it's like a lawnmower that hooks to the back of a tractor. And over in the Central Valley where I worked, they found a farmer sitting on his tractor. The tractor was running, and he was dead. And what happened was he was using a brush hog, and he hit a piece of wire that was on the ground with the mower, and it threw that wire up and hit him in the head. And so, yeah, when that news got out, a lot of farmers stopped using tree wire. So, at any rate, so the pedestal now at the bottom, you can see that it's all tile, and there's the flat main bottom part that's on the engine box, but then there's the pedestal part that's raised up, and so that's this part right here. And this has what that is in the back of that, behind the stove, is all open across here, across the back though. And I have ducting that goes down into the engine box. And what I did was I designed this so I can put a fan down on the floor, because this is the table where I sit most of the time. And so when I have a fire, I can turn this DC fan on, and it'll suck air from behind the wood stove. So the hot air that's around the wood stove gets sucked into the vent and blown out onto the floor. So it blows out down to where my feet are. So I don't have that all completed yet, but that was the plan for that. So the wood stove works really good. I cook on it, and I only cook when I need it. Like I did a Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner type traditional meal, and I only have a 2-burner inductance stove in my galley, so I would cook. If I needed a 3rd burner, I'd start a fire and go ahead and cook on this, and it works great. I mean, I've cooked I've cooked sweet potatoes and all kinds of different stuff on there, and it gets really, really hot, and it'll boil water. And so the main thing that's going on with this stove right now is I do have a rainwater leak, and it's up where it goes through the ceiling. And so up here, You can see that stainless steel flange up there. And so the bolt that's coming out on the far side is leaking. It drips rainwater. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen those bolts, and I may go ahead and go outside and pull the whole top part off and rebed it. I used butyl tape, and butyl tape usually works really good, but this thing gets hot, so I don't know if that's why it started to leak. It didn't leak at first, and it might have been from you know, the heat from the wood stove eventually caused it to leak. It's only one bolt, and I'm tempted to try just to fix that one bolt instead of tearing everything apart, but I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to go ahead and try to take it all apart up on top and look at it and see what that butyl tape looks like. It might be all dried out from the heat. I don't know. But that's what I got to do now. So that's part of the project now. But I'm going to go ahead and loosen these bolts now. And so that way I can go outside. I'll have to push these bolts up and then pull them out. And then I'm going to take the flange outside where the smokestack is, the chimney exhaust part outside on top of the boat. I'm going to have to pull that apart. So I'm going to go ahead now and loosen these bolts. I hate to do this because I use these aircraft nuts on here, and they have the nylon inside of the nut that keeps these from coming loose. It's not something that's going to come loose easily, so I think it'd be okay. I can go ahead and reuse them. I have some probably other ones I can replace them, but I don't think I'll need to. Now, as long as the bolt itself doesn't start spinning on me on these, I'll be good. I think I need to move this lantern, this oil lamp. It's the old oil lamp. This lamp actually came with the boat when it was built. So the boat builder puts these, each one of these boats has a lamp similar. This one got wet with salt water and it's kind of icky, but I don't really use them. I got several oil lamps, and but I don't have them installed. I will probably install them. They are cool to have, and they're a good thing to have in case your electrical system goes down. You'll have lighting. But LED lights kind of make this stuff obsolete. Okay, I got the aircraft nuts removed. Now there's a secondary nut I put on all of these, and just to kind of help hold it, because when I run my diesel engine, it creates a lot of vibration, and I just didn't want these to vibrate loose, and I wanted to make sure they stayed tight. Oh, I almost dropped that one. Okay, got them all off without dropping them. Okay, so now I got to push these out, and I got to get something to push these out with. Okay, I think I can use the handle to my chisel here and just see if I can. Ooh, this may be a problem. I may have to go up top and use a screwdriver. I can't remember if they're bolts or screws, but I might have to twist these off. Yeah, I don't want to mess these bolts up. Yeah, they're gonna have to be threaded out from up on top, and that may not be easy. So when I built this, how I built it was I took this steam pipe and I welded a 1/4 inch thick plate on the top and a 1/4 inch plate on the bottom down here. So this is all the unit part where the fire's inside, and so I welded it, and then what I did is I went back with a angle grinder and I ground all the welds down, so it all looks like one piece, and so that's how that works. And when I'd weld, I like to get on the grinder as soon as possible after welding while the weld's still hot, because it grinds a lot easier and quicker. And so I was almost done building this. Matter of fact, it was the very last weld. I had to weld just a little bit around the front because the weld wasn't perfect, and I needed to kind of go back over it. And it was real late at night at the farm, around midnight. I was out there by myself in the middle of like a 500-acre tree ranch, and we leased land there for the research farm. So out in the middle of nowhere, 12 o'clock at night, and I just welded this. It was red hot, and I jumped on the angle grinder in a big hurry and didn't put any eye protection on, which is really dumb. And started grinding, and a piece of metal flew off the grinder and hit me in the eye. And it was a piece about, I'd say, almost a 1/4 inch long. It was like a splinter of steel. And it went into my eye, right next to my iris, the brown part. And it hit the white part of my eye, but it was right up against the iris. And had it hit me in the pupil, I would have been blinded for life in this eye. And so now I got this piece of metal stuck in my eye. And luckily, it was right where my eyelids would come together when I'd blink. Of course, I was blinking and, you know, watery eye because it hurt. And so this thing was sticking out of my eye. And luckily, if it was up a little bit, the upper eyelid would have been pushing down on it. Or if it was a little low, the lower eyelid would have been pushing up on it. And it would have been I wouldn't have been able to deal with it. But it just happened to be right in the spot where when I blinked my eyes, both the upper and lower eyelid came together right where that piece of metal was sticking out of my eye. So I didn't have any medical insurance at the time, and I'm sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? This is a disaster. And you know, so I went into the office in the shop, and my boss, he used to be a pre-med student, and he had a dissecting kit with a bunch of tools in it, and so it was like a surgical kit. And I took out some forceps, and I used a mirror. And I was worried, you know, if I hit that thing, I'd drive it farther into my eye. But I on the very first try, I just went real slow with the forceps, grabbed onto it, and pulled it out. And I got it out of my eye. It left a hole in the white part of my eye, like the size of a pin or a needle. And it was a red around it. So this is in the white part of my eye, but it was right up next to the iris, next to the brown part of my eye. And the interesting thing was it didn't hurt after that. It was totally fine. The next morning I got up and the hole in my eye was totally healed up and gone. You couldn't even tell anything happened. So I really lucked out. So always use eye protection, no matter what. Just use it. It's you know, it's really important. You do not want to lose your eyesight. And same thing with hearing protection. A lot of tools that I use are really loud, and they may not be loud enough to really damage your hearing, though over prolonged exposure to loud sounds it can. I find that I like wearing ear protection when I'm working with loud tools because it cuts down on the stress level. And you'll be surprised if you're using a grinder or electric sander or anything that makes a lot of noise, and you're using it for a while without ear protection, then you go put ear protection on, you'll notice that sound was actually causing stress. And when you cut the sound off, or most of it off, it's just like it just makes it easier, you know. And it makes the job go a lot easier. You can concentrate on what you're doing easier. And it's just, you know, it's not annoying, you know. Without the ear protection, the sound can get really annoying. So, at any rate, that's my wood stove. So now we're gonna take this outside and go take the chimney part off. And I don't know how hot it is because I had this fire in here. This thing's pretty hot right now. It's hot enough to burn my hand. So it's hot. And all I did was burn some paper, just a little bit of paper in here just to show it, you know, that it works. And it works really good. The problem with this stove is because of it's small. I can get pieces of wood in the size of my fist through the opening here. And my sister and her husband are farmers. They have a almond ranch over in Central Valley, and so they have a lot of firewood. They got tons of it. And so they give me little small pieces, it doesn't take a lot of wood to burn in the stove. But the thing is, if I'm using it to cook, and you know, I got to keep feeding the fire because it's not a very big stove. It's not something you're going to put some wood in it, it's going to burn all night long. It's just, you know, about every 20 minutes I got to keep feeding it. So that's one of the problems. So if I'm sitting in here and it's cold in wintertime, and I'm trying to stay warm, this thing keeps me busy. And so I don't really use it for that. I don't use it a lot. Mainly, the main use for it is just ventilation, because it sucks air. You know, the flue, when there's even a slight breeze outside, it sucks air in through this vent here, and so that helps ventilate the boat. And but as far as using it for cooking, if I need to need another burner and I need a third burner, then I'll use it for cooking, and which is really rare, because most of the time when you cook, you only need one burner, sometimes two, but rarely three, all going at the same time. And depending on what you're into cooking. But as far as what I cook, usually just one burner is all I need. But this is good too, because you know, if I'm out sailing somewhere and I have all of my appliances now are electrical in this boat. I used to have an alcohol stove for cooking, and it was really dangerous. It was a galley made that was on this boat. My other boat that I had also had a galley made alcohol stove. And I was cooking on it one night, and I was done with dinner, and ate, and I cleaned up the mess. And later that night, I laid down to go to sleep, and my bunk was adjacent from the galley, and I could see this light through my eyelids. You know, it was like, what's this? I'm seeing light. What? So I opened up my eyes, and my head just happened to be the right height where the galley-made stove, the top will open up so you can get in and clean around the burners. And there's a little gap when it's closed down, just below the lid. There's a little air gap. And I just happened to be at the right height. My bunk happened to be at the right height with the stove. And I opened up my eyes, and I could see a flame inside the stove. This is when I went to bed. And so basically I went to bed, and my alcohol stove was on fire. And so I opened up the top, and what happened was the tank that had the alcohol in it, you pressurize it with a pump, and it was pressurized. And I shut everything down when I was done cooking, and I thought it was out, but it wasn't. One of the burners, the valve was leaking, and so it was leaking alcohol, and the pressure in the tank was pushing alcohol out through this leak, and it was on fire. And so the whole top inside of my boat, inside the stove, was on fire. And so when that happened, that was it. I wasn't going to use that alcohol stove again. I never used it again. I went down and bought this little portable butane burner, and started using that on my old boat. And when I bought this boat had a galley-made alcohol stove, and the owner told me it doesn't work. He thinks the fuel line was clogged, but he said if I unclog the fuel line, it should work fine. It works really good. And it's like, no, I'm not going to use it. And matter of fact, I just moved into this marina about a year ago, and one of their rules is that they don't allow alcohol stoves in here in this marina, period. You can't have one. And so, but before I moved here, I went ahead and removed the alcohol stove, and I put in a inductant stovetop with 2 burners, and I also put in a full convection oven, and it's a big oven, and big enough to, I can cook a traditional turkey dinner. I think the biggest turkey I've cooked in there is 15 pounds. So I can do, you know, a complete Thanksgiving dinner on this boat. And but the other alternative for cooking on a boat, and is mostly used, is propane. The problem with propane is that you have to get propane, and if you're sailing around the world, it's not always easy to get. But the biggest problem with propane is it's extremely dangerous, and the reason why is propane's heavier than air. So if you get a leak, a propane leak, because it's heavier than air, the propane goes down. It doesn't go up. And so what happens is it goes down, gets down into your bilge, and it starts filling up the bilge with propane. And there was a guy in Sausalito. He's an older guy. He sailed around the world, and he decided he was going to settle out and just live on his boat the rest of his years in Sausalito. And so he had a propane stove on his boat, and he got up one morning to make coffee, and he turned the stove on, and he said he saw this flame go from the stove straight down to the floor into the bilge, and it exploded, and it blew the entire deck off of the boat. A big sailboat. The whole deck was totally blown up into the air, and then came back down and landed on the lifeline stanchions. You have lifeline railing around the outside of your boat so you don't fall overboard, and so there's stainless steel poles that stick up. They're about, you know, 2.5, 3 feet high. The whole deck came up and then came down and landed on the top of those stanchions. So the deck was this high off the hull after the explosion. The guy survived because he was in the center of the explosion, and so that was a miracle. I don't know how he survived that, but he did. I'm sure his ears were ringing, you know, for a long time after that. But so I don't like propane. Propane also creates condensation in your boat if you use it as a heater. It makes your boat sweaty, and so some people use propane heaters to heat their boat. But one thing nice about wood is it's real dry heat. But again, I'm not going to be using the stove a whole lot, just when I really need it, mainly for cooking, or if I'm trying to stay warm and I just don't have no other way to do it. But at any rate, so I love the stove. It's really cool. It works really good, and it's almost like a little rocket stove. It really won't, even when there's no wind outside, the fire just gets roaring in here. And it gets really hot, so it'll definitely heat this boat up really well. But like I said, I have to keep feeding the fire, which keeps me busy. About every 20 minutes, I have to put more wood in it, and so that's kind of a pain. But so at any rate, let's go up top and see what we got going on out there. Okay, so I got 6 Phillips screw heads here, so I have to use a Phillips screwdriver on this. I'm going to go ahead and remove this part here. Just sit in there, sooty. Okay. Okay. This I'm just going to use my screwdriver. The problem is the weight of the drill. I have to push down so this bites into the top, and it's not letting the bolt come up, so I have to just use the screwdriver. Now I can use the drill when I go to put them back in. I can probably just pull these up. I'm sure if I really need to unscrew them, but they got so much butyl tape around them, they're sticky. Try my vice grips here, probably be easier. Now the threads got butyl tape all in them, so I'll have to clean them with a wire brush when I go to put this back together, because I'll never get the nuts on the end here. Nothing's easy on a boat. Okay. Okay, now let's see how difficult this is to remove. It's glued on there pretty good. Oh, there it goes. Okay, now I got to wiggle it loose out of the pipe. Okay, I got it. Okay, so this is not what I thought. Cool, this is actually good. I like seeing this. So what I got here is I have a gasket. I forgot about this, so that's good. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some butyl tape around the top here and then put this back in. And I think what's going on is that this gasket's not getting pushed down far enough because it goes inside this flange here. And so it goes down and it hits this wood here. So it's not pushing down as tight as I'd like it. So I'm going to go ahead. I may be tempted to put butyl tape on the top and the bottom. Problem is, I don't know if these bolts are long enough. Most of them are, but when you get over to this side's thicker inside the boat, this nut here barely went on the end of the bolt. So what'll happen is if I do this, I probably might have to get some longer bolts. If I see any water stains in here, and it looks like I see a water stain because it was leaking on this side. So I see a water stain up here, one little spot, and that's where it was leaking. So it was either leaking underneath this, which it doesn't look like it, or it's leaking on top, and I don't see any evidence either way. Okay, so at any rate, that's what it looks like down inside. So these are cooling holes here, so these actually should be clear and open. I kind of got some butyl tape stuck in there. So this is butyl tape that was underneath the wood piece here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push this butyl tape up tight around inside here. Maybe add a little more just to hopefully keep any leaks out from around the bottom down here. I don't think it's leaking down here. I think it's more likely that it was leaking because of this rubber gasket. The flange, it goes inside of that flange, and it just doesn't have that pressure that it needs to keep this tight. So I may put, I don't know, I think I'll probably put butyl tape on top for sure, but I'm not sure if I want to put any underneath because it's going to raise it up so high that those bolts, they're going to have to all be replaced, or most of them, or the longer ones, which I can do. That's not a problem, but I don't know. I think I'll just go ahead and start packing the butyl tape in here first and see what I can do. I might as well just go ahead and lift this off, get it out of the way. And that way I can see what I'm doing better. So it looks like a water stain right there. So, and that was coming in. This is where it was leaking. So this has got to be where the leak was. So I'm gonna this butyl tape's still gooey. So I'm just gonna push it up like this and kind of force it into the side here. Maybe that'll help. Let's go around, do that all the way around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put some butyl tape around here. Some more butyl tape. So I'm unrolling this butyl tape. This I cut down. I made it skinnier. It was 2 inches wide originally, but this will work. So I need to get my razor knife so I can cut this. So it just needs it long enough to go all the way around. Right about there. So now I'm just pushing it in and getting it stuck to the sides here. So the main reason why I'm doing this is this wood here. I just want to seal the inside around where this wood sits on top of the boat. So I'm pretty sure it's not leaking under here because I gel coated this, 3 layers of gel coat around this wood. So I'm pretty sure water's not getting in down here. It's getting in up here or on top of this rubber seal. But this is just going to be extra protection just in case. I'll just push it in tight all the way around. Kind of leave these vent holes open. That just keeps it cooler. Now that I think about it, I'm going to probably put the butyl tape on top of here. Okay, I'm just going to clean this with some alcohol. Okay, I think that's good. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the butyl tape on. And I think I'll have the seam right here. That'd be the better bet. Like that. Okay, that's good. Okay. I'm just going to work this down here a little bit. Trying not to touch it too much because then the oil from my hands get on it. So I just want to get it down. Now, well, I'm going to have to clean this gasket too. So I'm going to go get more paper towels and clean this with alcohol. So I'm just going to take this needle and kind of probe around and see if I can find where the hole is. It's somewhere around here. Maybe I can lift this up and look. Oh, there it is. It's right there. So I was right on it. Just over a little bit. Right there. Okay, so go ahead. Let's see if I can get this lined up. Okay, so there's one there. I'll get another needle. Once I get 2 of them lined up, I should have it. There, it's lined up. Okay, now what I'm going to do, just go ahead and check all of them. That's good. That's good. That's good. And this one, not good. There's always one turkey in every crowd. There it is. Okay, so it's a little to the outside. Okay, so now that's in place. That's where it needs to be. Pull the pins out. Don't need them. So I'm just going to go ahead and work this back in. Make sure this thing's going to go in straight. Now, before I go any farther, I'm going to start pushing these screws down. And I probably should clean these things. It's going to be really hard to clean them inside. I'm going to go get my wire brush. So I'm going to wire brush the threads because I got butyl tape all over them. I don't care about the upper part, it's just this lower part. So what's going to happen is the butyl tape is going to make that rubber gasket up higher, and then this flange is going to bite down into that butyl tape, and it's going to actually push the rubber gasket tight. So this should be a lot better seal than what I had. Okay, now I'm going to put some butyl tape under these washers here. I probably should have just put a flat piece in there where I did this. That would have been smart, but I can get it in there. So I'll just take some butyl tape, just go around all of them. Just kind of roll it out like that. And just go around them. Okay, so I got butyl tape around them. Okay, so what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to take these two bolts out and switch them, because one of them was bent. The bent one needed to go here, and I assumed that was the case when I put it in, but now I know which way it needs to go. So I'm going to go ahead and pull them out and switch them. I hate having to do this because I got that butyl tape up there, the more you mess with it, the more likely it's going to leak. And this was where it was leaking. So now this is the third time I'm pulling that bolt out. So okay, so I got all the nuts on the end here. All the bolts are through where they're supposed to be. Now all I have to do is tighten it down and it'll be done. So hopefully it won't leak. So at any rate, if this video is helpful or entertaining, please like and subscribe.